Welcome to DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, so let's get started. All right, welcome to DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today we have a couple of special guests that I'm really excited to bring on today. We have Javier Trilla. Javier, how are you?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Doing well. Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
You're actually the first person that did this podcast, so appreciate you coming back.
Yeah, it was a fun one the first time. Happy to do it again.
Great. And we also have Brent Woodle. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I saw your clips on Instagram with Javier, and I'm glad to be asked to join.
I'm glad you said yes. It's funny because I sent you a message about a week ago, maybe, I don't know, and I don't think you got it because you just said you didn't, but I was like, yeah, maybe he just didn't see it or something. And my wife was like, yeah, maybe not. And then I reached out to Javier, hey, you want to be on the podcast again? He goes, yeah. And then right then you reached out to me. I was like, how about we get Brent on there too? He goes, hey, I know Brent.
Make it more fun. People already know what I've talked about, so why not have another one? Some fun banter.
You guys know each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we run together quite a bit.
Brent has known me since I was a baby runner with long shorts,
I did that too.
Yeah. I
basketball
passed the
shorts.
White Rock running co-op torch to Javier.
Oh,
You really did.
did you run it for a while, like the group, or?
I didn't run it. I was one of the admins in the group for a period of 3 or 4 years, and Javier has taken it on, I think, for the last 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, I've been helping out a good bit, more so in the past year or so.
We could talk a little bit about that and how important community is for runners. You guys have this really big, it's White Rock Running Co-op. That's what it's called, right? And so
Yep.
WRRC, it's a really cool group. I've known about you guys for a long time and run with you a little bit. With as fast as you guys are, like, as I think about, like, Javier, you're running about, what's your best marathon time?
My best marathon is a 250 flat.
250, and then Brent, yours is 228.04.
Yeah, 228. It was originally an '04. They actually went back and changed the time to an O, so I'm just 1 second away from the next minute.
No way. The reason I asked that, there was a reason for that, is that a lot of these running groups, a lot of times you can find, when I say fast, maybe it's like a 320 marathon, 330, maybe a 310, maybe. But at the level that you both are at, it's got to be tough to find runners. There's some really fast runners in White Rock, the co-op. But you're doing a lot of really fast stuff. It's got to be hard. Doing a lot of stuff on your own.
Probably more for Brent than for me.
We've always had a good mix of paces, and in a group like the White Rock Running Co-op, you end up with a lot of subgroups. And that's true of the newer training groups like Pegasus and the Sloths and so on. You'll have bunches of runners that are doing workouts around a similar pace that end up kind of splitting off and running together for some of the workouts. And I've always had a few people that I can run with at various club runs. There's still people out there in Dallas today. I don't actually get out and run group runs as often as I'd like, but there are a few names that I think I could run with on a Saturday long run.
Really, a lot of us like on the faster-ish side. I think a lot of us can run our long runs together. Like we all
Yeah.
run in that kind of like high six to mid low seven range for a lot of the steady state long runs. So that's not as bad. It's workouts that get a little bit harder. Like for me, I find myself in no man's land right now. I feel like the whole world is chasing 235 right now, and I'm sitting here as 250, whereas a few years ago that was like blazingly fast. Like when I
Yeah.
came into the co-op, I thought that would be the fastest thing ever, and now I just don't feel like that is anymore. I'm just and finding myself in no man's land for that. I'm like I can run with the sloths to a point, but I can easily get dropped, and their warm-ups are a little too fast for this old guy. I make it work where I can. A lot of times I'll go out and run like an extra mile before I meet with them, so I can get my old man legs going, and then I can keep up with the youngins.
Man, I feel really old then. A big race is coming up here in Dallas anyways, called Run Dallas, and both of you have run that in the past, both the marathons, I'm sure, and then the half. And I think we had a slight conversation before, and all three of us are running the half. I'm pacing the 150, but you guys are actually racing it for now. Javier, talk a little bit about that.
This is my first time actually racing the half. I've actually never done the full at Dallas.
Oh, you haven't?
It's on my bucket list to do maybe one day. But my first shot at Dallas was actually the relay back in 2015 when I was first starting to get running. But I've either paced it or helped friends run to a goal or something along those lines, but I've never gone out and raced it. So I'm excited to actually get to do that this time because it's been a bucket list thing to try to do, but it's been a fun cycle. But yeah, this is my first time going at it. But I've probably run it 4 or 5 times now. And if I don't do the Sunday events, I've done the Saturday events too. I think the
Yeah.
5K and the 10K are fun too. They're good sub events, and I think it's cool that they've added that on over the years. They're really great courses too.
They have 30,000 runners there last year, which is crazy, and they're going to have more this year. It's insane for the overall event. So 5K, 10K, half, and so. How about you? Like I know you've run the marathon before, and I know you're tuning up. You said for Houston, so you've run the half this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So the Dallas Marathon, the full marathon, has been the event that I have probably focused on the most. I think I've raced it 5 times. I've always had a more ambitious goal than what I ended up running,
Yeah.
including last year. I ran, I think, 2:30 last year for third place, and I wanted to go a little bit faster than that.
What was first place? Who won?
So Joseph Hale, he ran a 2:23 or so, and I was talking with him in the lead up, and I think he wanted to run a 2:25 or a 2:26.
Wow.
And he had run some excellent mileage, excellent workouts, and he just had a really breakthrough day on that day. It's for those who haven't run the full marathon, it's one of the more difficult courses that you can run. And so I look at a 2:23 on that course as maybe a 2:20 or getting close to an OTQ time on a faster course. But anyways, I am turning 40 in January. And so this year I decided rather than focusing on Dallas, I would do the full marathon in Houston so I could compete as a masters runner. And so the Dallas Marathon.
Smart. I love it.
Yeah.
Have you run Houston before?
I've paced Houston. I've raced the half before. I think I've only raced it one time. I've paced it 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, that's a great.
And Brent, this has been your goal for a long time for your Masters run. We talked about this for probably 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, I circled it on the calendar knowing that Houston is a good course to run a fast time, knowing that I'd be trying to compete as a Masters. And my birthday is on January 12th. That's a typical Houston race date. As it turns out, so my birthday is on a Sunday. Houston is actually the week after, so January 19th. But I'm glad it's the week after and not before.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're going to be a Masters runner. Congratulations. I've been a Masters for 9 years now. And you get the Houston. That's going to be awesome. I'll be watching that. I'm running the Austin. There's one in Austin. I don't know what it's called anymore. It used to be the 3M, whatever they're calling it now.
Yeah, it's the Austin International Marathon now. I guess 3M pulled out like 2 months before the race or whatever, so it's wild.
No, we've known this for a while.
Oh, has it? Okay, never mind. Strike that statement from the podcast.
My wife told me like 8 months ago about that. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's the only reason I know.
When is that race? I know it's always been a popular one for locals.
It's either the same week or a week after or something like that. I forget. I'm already signed up. I just wherever we sign up and then we just go the Friday.
Yeah, sometimes it's the same week.
Yep.
I think it might be like a Saturday race versus a Sunday race. They're real close together. I would have loved to run that this year, but I am going to be out of town. No Houston or 3M.
It's just super fast. It's like Houston, but a little faster. So it's worth at least going to do the half if you ever decide to do that. So from a training standpoint, Javier, you're doing the half. I know you mentioned you're slightly injured. What's going on there? And then are you ready?
I have been dealing with probably like some mix of piriformis, not bursitis or anything along those lines, but like some hip rotator issue for 2 or 3 months now. It's just, it comes and goes. It's one of those things that I can run through a lot. I run through like pain level 2, 3. That doesn't really bother me usually, but today I was doing a track workout for one of my tune-up workouts, and about a mile and a half in, I'm wincing in pain, and my warm-up buddies are, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely not." And I eventually just had to shut it down and walk it in. And the worst thing ever is that walk of shame back to your car when you have to bail on a workout or bail on a run in general. I think it's only happened 2 or 3 times, and it is the worst feeling in the world. But got looked at today, got some dry needling done. Shout out to Logan Schimmer for getting me in really fast today. A lot of soft tissue work, and I'm hoping
That's rare to get in there for quickly.
Yeah, I think it might be a perk of being a client for 10 years, but
Maybe so.
But no, he did a lot of work today. He beat me up pretty good, dry needled, and I'm hoping that a little bit of rest and ice and some strength prehab work might get me through it. It's frustrating. I decided to take Dallas as my PR attempt for the half. I feel like I've been hanging on for dear life for a PR attempt already. Now I feel like I'm hanging on for dear life to even get to the start line. But I'm gonna, no matter what, if I get out there, I'm still gonna shoot the PR if I blow up, and it'll be what it is. That's racing.
Yeah, what is your PR?
My PR is 121.40 something. I ran that in Houston earlier this year.
Yeah,
The
Houston's great
goal
to
for
do
this
that.
year was to do like a 120, but we'll see how that shakes out.
I hope you don't show up where I'm at.
Yeah, if you catch me, I'm having a really bad day.
Exactly. And
I
Brent,
think that half course has the opportunity to be pretty fast, so
yeah,
you might surprise yourself.
I agree. Have you? So Brent, your best hat? Are you thinking a PR on a half, or because I saw you running the half back in November at the DRC half, and you actually won it. I was trying to give you some alcohol during one of the aid stations, but I think you
Yeah,
just
so
bounced.
the DRC half, that was a bad day for me. I won't go too far into that, but I ended up with some sort of food poisoning or something, and I
Oh,
decided to race it anyways. And,
I mean, I feel like you did pretty
obviously glad
well.
to win. So.
You won it, so that was good.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? No one wants to hear the guy who
That's right.
did well in a race complain about it. It wasn't the most enjoyable experience, but I am glad to have won it. So yeah, for the Dallas half, I didn't get to that earlier. I'm running the half as a tune-up. It falls perfectly. I think it's 5 weeks out from Houston, and my goal is to PR. I actually
Okay.
PR'd in the half earlier this year in my spring training cycle. I think I 1:10:23 sounds about right.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so if everything goes well, I hope to get under 110. I know there's at least one other runner in the race who's hoping to run the same time, so hopefully we can get together.
Do you have some goals like because you're almost at that elite level, right? Is it like a sub-elite that you're at? Is there any, you said you're almost 40, so it's probably a little bit harder to get that, but certainly in Masters, you could start winning a lot of those, I would think, or at least close.
Yeah, so I mostly look at it as if I can get opportunities to race in sub-elite sections of bigger
Mm,
races, like New York City and
yeah,
Chicago both have that, Tokyo has that. Those are the things that I'm after.
got it.
And then as a Masters runner, I'll just have to see if there's elite fields that I can get into. The sub elite, I guess, benefits usually aren't that great. You don't get bottles on the course, but it is nice to be able to start at the front.
So that's all you get as a sub-elite is, especially at New York, and that'd be cool instead of being way in the crowds and having to stand around and stuff.
Yeah, so speaking of Logan, the year that I ran sub elite in New York, I think it was 2019. It might have been 2017, but I showed up to the bus to the sub elite section, and guess who was there? Logan Sherman.
I guess we all know him.
Yeah, and they honestly do it the best. They take the sub elites and the elites to the same facility. It's an indoor track facility on Long Island. It's
Okay.
split down the middle, so the sub elites are on one side and the elites are on the other. So if you want a bagel, you've got to like sneak over to the other side and grab it. It's nice and warm, and they bus you right to the starting line, so you get out and walk to the front, and then you're off.
Let's go back to Run Dallas. So as you think about, it's a half marathon, and a lot of times when you think of fueling, is there a strategy that you use, or are you thinking like, and Javier, you can go first, but and then Brent, are you thinking, hey, I've got to run my fastest time because your goal is to run your fastest time ever, and so do you have a specific kind of thinking around what you want to do for that, or is it just that just take a couple gels and I'm good to go?
And I've got a fueling strategy. I use Martin primarily for all my races. So I typically follow their prescribed plan that they have on their website. They have different
No,
plans for 10K, half marathon, full. They prescribe like what you should do the night before, if you need anything the night before, what you do the morning of, before the jet or before your race. And then for me, I do gels every 40 minutes based on their plan. So I'll do
mm,
something like the night before, I'll load up with one of their drink mixes. And the morning of, I'll take another one, which kind of gets me nice and hydrated to begin with. I'll take a gel before the start and probably for a race like Dallas, I'll only need one gel right in the middle, most likely.
no ritual of eating spaghetti or something
Uh,
before.
so I do have a ritual, and Brent's seen me do it. It's basically have pizza and probably a glass of wine the night before, and sometimes I'll have a greasy burger for lunch, which Brent thinks is ridiculous,
I
but
was
we've
gonna
done it.
say the
Yeah,
burger is what I remembered.
I think the burger
Like
is
the day
more of
before?
like, yeah, so Brent and I have done a
Jeez.
couple trips together, and primarily Indy, really. And the two times we've gone to the same bar and I've had a burger at that bar. So it probably looks like more of a ritual than it really is to Brent, but it isn't really. The main ritual for every single race, including this turkey trot the other day, was pizza the night before and then a glass of wine to kind of chill out and relax the race nerves.
How about you, Brent? As you think about, you're doing a full marathon in January for Houston. Do you like you've been doing this for a long time, but it's obviously it's gonna be a little different from a half to a full. But do you practice something beforehand, or what does yours look like?
Yeah, so I try to minimize the things I think about on race day because my mind is just racing, thinking about the race. And so I actually have a plan written out on a note card. And I've used the same note card for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. And it starts the day before. I normally have a pretty high carb diet, but I will eat a little bit more for lunch the day before, probably like a Chipotle burrito. And then for dinner, nothing crazy. I don't need a large dinner. I don't want to feel heavy in the morning. One thing that's a little bit different for me on race morning, I almost never eat in the morning before a run. It feels bad for me to run with something in my stomach, even for workouts. But on race morning, I will wake up early, just have a plain bagel with jelly, more carbs. I'll drink a Gatorade, and then I'll drink coffee. I always drink lots of coffee. And then I've got to get that down and finish drinking, usually about 90 minutes before the race so that I can pee before the race.
And whatnot.
And then I'm set. So I'll do the same thing for a half or a full. The main difference is that in a full, I will also be taking just a ton of carbs during the race. And in a half, I might just have one gel.
Okay. Well, that's
I think
not
that's
a
a big
ton.
part of it too, is getting up really early before the race. For a long run, I might get up an hour before, but for a race, it's typically 3 hours. So 8:30 race, I'm looking at a 5:30 alarm. It's just a lot easier to be more awake for races. It's a very different feeling than when I go out on a long run and you see me and I'm half asleep. I've already been awake for 3 hours and I can digest everything and have time to chill out and get those race nerves out of the way.
Yeah.
So, Brent, you've raced a lot, and I'm sure you've had opportunities to sometimes win races, but also potentially thinking you were going to win. There's this guy or person ahead of you. Is there a story that you can think about over the last 3 or 4 years around almost winning a race and then just what was going through? I don't know if there's something there, but I know like Logan was telling me that he thought back in 2017, right? He was in second place, but he thought he was in first for first 15 miles. And there's these people telling him that he was in first, but then somebody said, "No, dude, you're in second at 15 miles." So he's, "Oh my God," stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't think of a story exactly like that. The stories that I have are more like I had two races where I was just blown up at mile 10.
Hmm.
Once was in Boston, once was in Dallas. And frankly, I don't know exactly what went wrong on those days, but I've learned the lesson of just really being patient. And
Hmm.
so what I try to be is like the strongest person in the second half. So whether good or bad. I don't have a lot of stories of people passing me in the second half of races unless it's been a really bad day and I'm just hoping to get it over with.
10, that's rough, dude. Like usually it would be like 15, but 10? Did you
Yeah,
get through the whole race or?
yeah. Obviously, you look back on that and you'd say you probably went out too fast. A lot of the times I actually look back at the week of workouts that I did beforehand and just think, man, I probably just overdid it and I went into
Yeah.
that race cooked. And it's something I struggle with after 13 years of running. I still have questions about the right way to peak for a race.
What do you run generally when you prepare for a marathon, like throughout the week? I know it varies, but if you're at the high point, where does that look? What does that look like?
So at the high point of training this season, I guess it's 110 to 120 miles per week. Last season in the spring, I think it was 100, maybe just over 100. So it varies a little bit. Sometimes I work on more speed work, like in the spring it was more speed work. This time it's more volume and lactate threshold. And then I usually have a pretty sharp taper, so like a 10 or 12 day taper. 3 weeks out, I'm
Okay.
usually at full volume. But I'm running hard workouts at 3 weeks out.
So yeah, that makes sense. That's a lot of volume. You do 110 miles, 100 miles a week?
I'm not quite that high, but I'm also a high volume guy when I'm running the marathon. So for the
Yeah.
marathon, I've peaked at just under 90. I peaked at like 88 or 89 for my Boston 23 cycle. That's the most I've ever run and the best I've ever felt. I felt like I could run all day. Like the
Yeah.
volume, I love marathon training. Like I keep telling myself that I'm going to stop specifically training for a half marathon over the summer for the past 3 years, and I keep doing it. And I hate it so much because it's so much harder than the full. The speed
It's
work
because it's
hurts
a lot
so
more
much more.
speed.
It's just a
Yeah.
lot more speed, a lot more work at like lactate threshold and tempo, and then marathon pace is just something that you can get into and coast and comfortably for so long. And I even miss like the 20, 22, 24 miles you can just run forever. My best fitness for a half marathon always comes in a full marathon cycle, and for the past year and a half, I've just not trained for a marathon, so it's been hard to get that level of volume in. But that's my preferred state.
So any kind of same question that I asked Brent, any kind of, I don't know if it's stories, but any thoughts around like during a race where you've got close to maybe winning or doing really well that, I don't know if there's any kind of thoughts that might have
Yeah,
come to your mind.
one of my very first times of racing for place, I think I was Celebration White Rock, and I knew that I was, I think, fifth at the time overall for the 10K.
Yeah.
Um, and it was the very first time that I found myself like in a lead pack, holding on, actually racing all out, and found myself like asking spectators like, where am I, how far back is the guy behind me?
Hmm.
And finally on that race was the first time that I broke in top three in a race, and that was pretty exciting for me. And I will admit a totally embarrassing story that happened to me at Turkey Trot 3 days ago, or however long ago Turkey Trot
Let's
was.
say.
I got beat by, so I was racing in a small pack, another guy that was dressed like me, singlet, X
Yeah.
percents, yada yada. And then there was this other guy in the same little
You didn't have
pack
your
that was
shirt
wearing,
off?
I did not have my shirt off, not in the winter.
Okay.
I try not to race with my shirt off if I can avoid it.
Okay.
But I
Just,
got beat by a guy with a damn Turkey Trot shirt on, and I am so embarrassed by that, and I don't know that I'm ever going to live that down, but
that's
here we
crazy.
are. I'm going to just say that he forgot to pack a cold shirt from out of town, and that's the only shirt that he had to race in cold weather. That's what I'm going to go with because
So
that's
my
all I got.
first turkey trot was back in 1993,
No, you are old.
and I know I just graduated high school, and I thought I want to go run the turkey trot, and I just ran cross country and things, and never ran 8 miles though. It was raining, it was cold, it was all of that. And there was back then there was 40,000 people that were running it. I had no idea. I don't even know how I started. Anyways, it started raining like crazy. It's cold, and then I was wearing the turkey trot shirt. And I ran all the way in it. I think I ran a 59 or 58 minutes, which was pretty good compared, knowing that I never ran 8 miles. But anyways,
Yeah, it's really good. That's what I just ran, was 59.
whatever, dude. You ran 59 minutes?
No, I'm sorry, wait, no, 49. What the
You
hell am I
ran like,
talking about?
yeah.
Never mind, just
I was
mute
like,
me. See,
oh,
I'm still frazzled by the damn cotton shirt thing,
I
so
was
I'll
about to
just shut
say,
up.
there's no way. But
49, 49.
anyways, so I ran this thing, got home, took off my shirt, got in the shower, and oh my God, the worst pain I've ever felt on my chest. I was like, I couldn't believe it. That's never happened to me. It's because I wore that cotton shirt. So
I know that feeling very well. That still comes up.
I don't take off my shirt much, but if I take it off, you know that I'm hurting, and I don't give a shit at the time. Who cares? I have to take this thing off.
Have you ever been in a situation where you can feel it coming, so you're like holding your
Yes.
shirt away from
Yes.
the nipples, just trying to
That's when
finish
I'll
the
take it
run without
off.
more damage?
So when I'll take it off. Look, there's all kinds of things you can do, and I do most of those things, but every now and then it just doesn't work. No. So hopefully the new shirts from your group helps. So we'll see.
We'll find
We
out.
order,
They'll be here
we order
soon.
some shirts. Yeah. Any kind of like any hometown when you look at races like Run Dallas is a lot of fun for me. Used to one of the big races for me and just a lot of fun, a lot of excitement was Cowtown. Although I've never PR'd there or did anything like that. As a matter of fact, in general, I think I've run it 10 times the half. It's probably one of my worst because of the hills and just, I don't know why, but it's the most fun from a crowd standpoint. Anything that might stand out, let's go to Brent since we just talked to Javier.
Yeah, I think of Dallas and Cowtown both as being great, big, medium races. Medium city, I guess Cowtown is maybe a medium-sized city. Maybe you'd call it a big city. But the atmosphere at both of those races is second to none. Neither of them is an exceptionally fast course, but they're both events that I want to be at every year.
Yeah, for sure.
With Cowtown, I usually get a hotel and stay there. And now that I've got young kids, we stay in the stockyards and my kids can see me pass by. That's about the only time every year that they actually see me racing because it's easy for them to just walk out the hotel door and see me.
Yeah.
Aside from that,
It's
Javier
easy
and
for
I,
the wife to bring them in instead of, okay, let's go to this place.
yeah, exactly. And my wife and I talk about it. It's tough. If I'm not around to help, it's very difficult for her to move around a downtown area with two young kids. Hopefully that gets a little bit easier as they get older.
Yeah, will for sure. 1,000%.
So aside from the Cowtown, I think Javier and I probably have some of the same races that we focus on. Dash Down Greenville is a big one. Form Follows Fitness 5K is maybe.
Well, I know Javier likes that one just because he can drink a lot.
Both of those races. So we like Form
Yeah, that's
Follows
true.
Fitness because it has a great after party.
Yeah.
5Ks are the best for after parties. I don't know why, but they're the best. There's this one called Mi Casino. I forget what it's called, but it's
Mambo
in the
Miles.
Mambo
yeah
Miles.
Mambo Miles.
Yeah.
It is the biggest part. It's only a 5K, and it's the biggest party in the summertime, and it sucks to even run the 5K. It's just awesome. Like
Yeah.
all the drinks you want and just party, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's an Eric Lindbergh race thing. I mean,
It
his,
is.
his post-race parties at Clyde Warren are pretty big, and they do Form Follows Fitness also. And yeah, Form Follows Fitness is one that I enjoy doing too. And recently, even Frisco Big Stars is one that's getting a pretty fast growing. It's not in Dallas, a little bit further north, but it's
W.
gotten a big following. It's gotten fast. Like winning that race is a big one.
It's one of the most competitive races in the city. Top 3, I would say.
Yeah.
And Brent, there's a lot of fast 5Kers out there, really fast. Do you guys go out there to try to? I think you both probably try to go out and win it, knowing the competitiveness. Was it realistic? Depends who's.
Not for me. Like for me, like I need Brent to win races that I'm at so that I can get masters when I can at this point. Because like my worst nightmare was Brent turning 40 and like showing up to races and not winning. But no, I'm not a. I can be a top 10 guy at a lot of
Yeah.
these medium-ish type 5Ks in the 17-minute range. But I'm not going to win it unless I'm beating up on a little tiny, small town 5K.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can win some of the less competitive races, like Form Follows Fitness, I've won a couple times, and then the RAR Oktoberfest 5K is another one that I like. There's a guy named Richard Powell from Houston who always comes up and races that one. When it comes, there's 2 faster ones, the Dash Down Greenville and the Dallas Turkey Trot. Actually,
Yeah.
the YMCA Turkey Trot's 5K is exceptionally fast compared to the 8 mile. I would say the younger fast runners run the Turkey Trot, and so it's tough to podium there.
Yeah.
And then Dash Down Greenville gets all of the adult runners who are fast.
What are they hitting, like low 15s or something?
Yeah, some years you'll get under 15 at both
Yeah.
of those races.
Yeah, I think high 14 took Turkey Trot this year. And yeah, it's that 5K course of Turkey Trot is so tempting, especially since it breaks off from the 8 miler at mile 2.5 going downhill.
Yeah.
Every time I run past it, I'm like, what am I doing on this 8 mile? Just turn left and get this over with. Get the suffering done.
I know, I'm the same. I remember I was in Boston one year. I was running the 5K, and there was a I don't know if it's a world record, but it was a record for the Boston 5K. They literally have 50,000 people running the 5K at the Boston. Anyways, I try to do that every year. And one time, this guy ran a 13 something, and I thought, 13?
Yeah,
What?
they have an elite race there. That's actually this coming Boston. I'll be doing the 5K as well.
You are? I will too.
Yeah, they.
I'll say see you
last
later.
year- What was that?
See you later. Like, I'll see you basically when I saw so usually there's this corner that you go under this tunnel, and then the really fast people are coming back and almost done, and I'm just still got like almost a mile to go. So
Yeah,
I
so
mean, I
that
think I'm around a
for the
20-minute.
people,
Anyways,
if you've anyone who's run Boston, that underpass at mile 25. I don't remember what the bridge is. In the 5K, you get to do that twice.
yeah,
You get to go out under it and then back under
that's
it.
right.
So
That's right.
that'll
Is it just
kill
an
your
out and
legs.
back? Is it just an out and back course? I've never done it.
It's not quite out and back. There's
It's like a
Chris,
little
you might know better.
circle-ish. Yeah, no. So any other race? So those are interesting races. I haven't thought about the one in Frisco. So Cowtown, have you done that, Javier?
Yeah, I've done Cowtown twice. Cowtown was my second marathon. I raced it a few months after I ran New York and hit like a 25-minute PR because I figured out what I was doing within the next 2, 3. It's what marathoners always do. Their first
Yep.
one's kind of crap, and the second one's a little better by a lot. And then I think we talked about this last time. I paced Cowtown with Kieran in 23. We had
Yeah.
it was my first pacing gig, so I decided to pace a marathon.
I've paced a marathon once, and I was like, I'm never going to do that again.
It was good. I was in shape, so I was happy. It was
Yeah.
part of my long run, so it was good. It was
Was it like
Yeah,
a
that's
310 or
exactly it.
something? Like
yeah, that
you're-
was we were the 310 pace group, yeah. Which
Jeez.
sounds weird to say, but it's fine.
If you're training for a marathon, then pacing a marathon is a fun experience. But if
It
you
is.
just sign up and you're thinking, I'll get into shape for this, it can be pretty rough.
You should, but I think it's a good caveat that you should not do that because like people are counting on you. Do not
That's right.
use pacing a marathon as like a goal race and let people down.
Brent, I don't ever see you pacing. Have you done that much, or I don't know?
So at Cowtown, I've paced 3 hour twice
Okay.
and 3:05 once, I think. This year, 2024, I raced the 10K on Saturday and I paced the marathon on Sunday. So that was a fun weekend.
You raced it and then still ran a three-hour pace?
Yeah, it was in the middle of marathon training. And
Yeah.
so it's,
Problem.
yeah, it's similar to the training I would have been doing anyways on that day. A few miles longer, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's like running a 24 miler on
Yeah.
and then just going out and doing your workout the same week. It's really you recover so fast when you're in high mileage compared to being in the middle of training. So
Why do you guys love running so much? You guys do a lot of it, right? Obviously, you're both are very good at it, but what kind of keeps you going? Because I believe that motivation is only like a small piece of, you guys are literally doing 90, 100, whatever miles every week or ish. So it's got to be more than motivation. There's the winning aspect of it, I'm sure, or you're good at it. What kind of keeps you focused in on that? Brent, go first.
So to me, it's an atomic habits thing. Like I appreciate the grind and the fact that if you do something every day for a while, you'll get very good at that thing. I think that's a rewarding experience in and of itself. And racing does provide motivation. So
Sure.
I'm in pretty good shape right now. It took a while. I took a break during COVID and it took a while to get back into this shape. And so now I feel like being able to race is my reward for all the work that I've done. Like I really enjoy getting out there and competing. It's a lot of fun.
I think for me, it was for a long time. One, I always thought I was fairly good at running, but then I was overweight and I wasn't way overweight. I was probably like 20, 25 pounds. And that to me kept me going for 6 years, 7 years. And then there was the grind after that. It was like, all right, now I just got to do the work because I kept the weight off, no problem. And I started eating better and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of that keeps me still, I'm still a little bit motivated from it because I don't want to be completely overweight because I could easily get overweight. It's easy, especially now that I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 in February. When you get in your 40s, man, it just starts going like this. I don't know.
Well, sorry, I don't want to interrupt Javier there.
no, you're fine.
I will say one of the reasons I got into running initially, right? So I joined some running clubs and I saw who was there and I saw people who were older than my parents who were fit and healthy and fun to hang around with and drink beers with after the run. And I thought that's who I want to be when I grow up. I don't want to feel old and I'm trying to think of a way to describe it.
I want to live longer, you know?
But yeah, that was a big part of getting into running.
Got it. Javier.
I think for me, similar, like I want to stay fit and staying competitive and keeping on the faster side keeps me motivated. I am not to the point where fun running is attractive to me. I think I'd
Yeah,
get bored very quickly. I have to have something to chase.
for
I'm
sure.
super type A with work, super type A with running. I enjoy the grind. I also, it's a little, running can be a little toxic mentally too, though, because I wake up in the morning and if I skip a run, or even today when I had to bail on my run, like I beat myself up. But
Yeah.
that same thing keeps me motivated because I don't want to feel that way. And whether that's good or bad, that does keep me motivated, keeps me going. Community aspect too, almost all my friends are in the running community. I really don't have a lot of folks that I know outside of it anymore. I love meeting my friends in the morning. I don't love waking up in the morning. I don't know anybody that does, or that early as we have to get all these miles in. But there's no better feeling afterwards. I wake up every morning and I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm exhausted. I don't want to get out of bed. But when I'm done and with my friends and with everyone else, and that feeling of accomplishment is second to none. So again, staying it, even though my body feels old right now because I'm all beat up during a training cycle, it does keep you young.
I think that no one really ever says after a run, damn, I wish I wouldn't have done that run.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. If I get out, like this morning, it's like, too cold and I've got this call at 8:30. Could have got up at 5:30 or 5 and ran 6 with you guys at the track and been home at 7. That's the way that goes. I just was there. And
That's a good point. Like right now, the winter is probably the hardest.
it is
Like winter's the best training, but it is the hardest to get out the door.
100%.
For me, I prefer to just throw on a pair of shorts and throw on my shoes and get out the door. This whole like bundling up to get out the door in the dark and the cold, like it is
Could carry a
tough.
flashlight. I'm like, God.
It's rough, and I think it separates people that do. I know a lot of people are like, it's cold, I'm done, I'm out, and they
Yeah.
go in hibernation or they run in the afternoon, and you don't get a whole lot of running buddies in the afternoon by yourself. You're only going to go so far, so I think it separates a lot of people that get up early and grind through the cold.
Right.
Brent, where do you do most of your training? Is it White Rock Lake or the house or what's the?
Yeah, so I live in Allen. I'm up in the suburbs, and I'm on a tight schedule with the kids. So I do all my runs from home. I try to get to the lake on Saturday, maybe once or twice a month, but
Okay.
you would laugh if you looked at my Strava. The maps are all the same. They all start and end at my house. This morning was a wild one because I drove 2 miles to a park so that I could start and run on the trail there. But yeah, it's a pretty boring routine. I vary it up. I go north, south, east, or west.
Yeah.
Ours don't
You're
look a
pretty
lot
much all over
different.
the place.
Lately, I'm like at the lake or
Okay.
by my house, or I go to North Dallas sometimes too. We have our Merit Monday group that's on my Strava that we always typically meet at a coffee shop North Dallas. But other than that, I typically stay around here. Sometimes I'll go run in the Katy, but not as much as I used to. A lot of the groups that are start at UP or Highland Park or whatever, they tend to run earlier than I want to right now. I don't have to quite get up that early, but I also don't need 14, 15 miles midweek right now. And when I do, I will run with them usually just to get those 14, 15s in with actual other people.
Do you guys remember this? So there's this club back in Rockwall. I don't think maybe they're together, but I forgot what it's called. But they're really fast. They're a group that always went to Boston. So Leah was kind of part of it, but most of them were really fast, or at least pretty fast. Don't know if they're as
Is
fast
that
as
Jose Lopez's group?
he might have been in that at one time. I don't know if he is now, but my question is that maybe he was in that group. Who knows? But my question is there groups like that you thought in the past that you're like, wow, this group is my speed or the group that I want to be part of? Because you go to Boston, there's all kinds of groups like that. There's sort of groups like that here, but I don't really see it as a sub elite or
Yeah, I think when I was so WRC was my first running group, really. And then after that, when I started bouncing around a little bit more, there was a group called DRP back in the day, Dallas Running Project.
huh, I
That
think I've
was
heard.
like my strive to be, because they were more of a midweek running group, more so than, I guess they ran on Sundays for their long runs, but I think they're, Fons may disagree or not, but I think they're really the predecessor to Pegasus. They always started at the Starbucks at Knox and 75. So that group has changed over the years
Yeah.
and turned into Pegasus. But that was like my first foray into like really faster midweek runs, like with a group and whatnot. That's converted to Pegasus now at this point.
Yeah, there's a few other groups. I was going to say DRP as well. Nomad came around for a short while. I don't think they ran consistently. Those guys are still around. They're still fast. But
Yeah.
the group aspect of it, I don't think really took off. But today, I would say Pegasus and the Sloths both have a pretty good pace group for sub-elites. The
Yeah.
Sloths are split. They have a kind of a South chapter and a North chapter. So North is up by me. South tends to train a lot with Pegasus, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they tend to start from Star Knox, so they'll start at Germany Park a lot.
I just wondered if there was groups like that because you guys are so competitive. So I'm not running with that dude.
Yeah, I don't get that vibe from the running community.
Yeah, I
Now, in
don't either.
different cities, I don't know. But
Yeah.
around here, the only thing I've gotten is maybe some people trying to prove themselves. That's more likely with the post-collegiate runners, just the younger people.
Makes sense.
But I think on a group run, people are mostly just trying to help each other.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't feel a whole lot of competitive aspect between the groups and people. Once you race, all bets are off, but for the most part.
Yeah, speaking of Jose Lopez, he has this group. I know he and Cruz and a bunch of other people. They do these runs, and their long runs are super slow, 9 minute pace, sometimes 10 every time. I think they just race for the speed work only. That's their speed work. So I'm like, do you really need to go that fast when you're doing your pace or when you're just going at a slow? Maybe you should just go really slow because these guys are running 121s and 120s, halves, and
I don't know
I
that I
don't know.
want to touch this one.
Javier and I are both laughing because this comes up as a topic on our long runs because we both know Jose pretty well. Been
Yeah.
running with him for a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe Javier doesn't want to admit it. I suspect that Jose is doing some speed work on the side that isn't showing up on his Strava feed, like
Really?
maybe on a treadmill or something. I think he's
Yeah.
doing workouts.
What does he say? I
Uh,
mean, you know him well. What does he say? I'm gonna have him on. I think
we
that's a
never
good
really
idea.
talked. That'll be the next question, Jose. What are you really doing? I don't. I know that he is big on Lydiard as far as his training philosophy, which
So
does
lots of
say a
miles.
lot of long,
Yeah.
slow miles and lots of time on your feet. But
He
You
obviously
gotta
does
run.
that.
You gotta run fast sometimes. Like you got to, or else you like.
But he
Yeah.
does a lot of races, so maybe that's where his speed comes from. I don't know.
There's got to be some bounding hills or something in there too.
Yeah. Have you seen him like at every finish line? He looks like he's dying. Like even when he's only halfway there, he looks like he's dying. Cruz is the same way. I don't know
Yeah,
if you'll know who Cruz, but I'm like, guys, just breathe or something.
that is one thing I'll say about Jose that I remember from all the days of racing him is that he really does put effort into his races, and I like to see that.
Yeah, there's this guy in the trail running community, and he runs hundreds of miles, like 100 milers. And I was watching him one time, and this guy, he had 10 miles to go, and he's sprinting basically, like the last. He's an elite U.S. kind of runner. I forgot his name, but he was like, that's how he was running. Like, what is wrong with this guy? And I think he won that particular race, and he does that for every race. And I'm just like,
Some
man, that
people are
looks
heavy
like
breather.
Jose almost.
Some people are heavy breathers, man. I don't know. You hear him at mile
Yeah.
one of a marathon, you're like, I don't know how you're gonna make it to the end of this race, but
I agree.
so
I'll be running. I'm going to kill this guy. He can't even breathe. No, he beats me.
I'm also comically self-conscious about my breathing. I don't want to sound like that heavy breather, so but I always feel like I am. I don't think I am, but
Is there anything that I missed that you guys were just hoping to get something out that I just didn't ask?
I I don't think so.
No, I'm looking forward to Dallas. I'm looking forward to the rest of the racing season. I think we got off to a good start. I don't know if what you would consider the fall racing season in Dallas, but I think it starts with DRC or the Turkey
Yeah.
Trot, and Dallas is a big weekend. Cowtown is a big weekend. Everyone is training really well, and I'm excited to see the results.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to just bounce back and get through Dallas. And I'd like to race more next year, especially in the
Yeah.
spring. I've talked to Brent about this
I would
before.
love to
Like
see you race more, Javier. I really would.
I don't race enough,
I'm
and
not
I really
joking.
don't. And I ran into that at Turkey Trot where I forget how to race. I train so much
Yeah.
throughout the year, and I do a lot of workouts, and then I forget how to hurt properly. That I feel like I'm regularly conserving too much at the beginning of races, and that's part of it. Like at what point do I need to flip the switch to hurting into the race? And that's something that I struggle with for a long time. Because sometimes I'll run a race and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, but have a mile or two left, and all of a sudden you feel great in the last mile of a half, and you're like, well, where was that early in the race? Even if the race felt harder earlier, at what point is where you need to flip that switch to get really deep in the pain cave? And that's something that I need to race more, and not really so much 5Ks, probably like 10Ks and something
Yeah.
like mid-length and harder. Because 5Ks just hurt right out the gate. I never conserve really.
I'm a big believer in racing somewhat often, only because if you have a goal and you don't know what it's like to run race day, just what you were talking about, then I just don't think you're going to do your best necessarily. Like you don't know really what that best is.
Yeah.
And race day is interesting because you have all that adrenaline. You want to go out fast, sometimes too fast, sometimes not fast enough, or you don't, like you said, you don't know what it's like to hurt. Like I can hurt for the first 3 or 4 miles, but then sometimes kick it in gear the last several miles. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, I didn't hurt as bad. Or sometimes I go out too fast and I can't do well the next one. So you learn from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a bad habit of hyper focusing too much on my goal race and not racing along the way. I used Turkey Trot this year as a tune up for Dallas, so that was a good one to let me know where I'm at. So
You should, man. I want to see you more.
I'll
Brent,
do
you
it.
race a lot. The
Tough
best.
balance. So one thing I would say is I think I raced my half maybe too hard or trained too hard around then, and it might have impacted my marathon in the spring. But at the same point, you learn a lot from every race that you do. So it's tough to balance the putting in those 100% efforts and then also recovering in time for your goal race.
I feel
100%.
like I used to race more when I was like earlier in my running career.
Sometimes you just get too smart for your own good and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do so many races. And you're like, maybe I should. Guys, this has been really great. I really appreciate you guys coming on, and make sure you tell your friends. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Don't forget to rate and review us. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Chris.